Hey everybody, I'm back for another live stream test. I know this is going out very last minute here. This again is another one of my famous impromptu live streams. Let me get rid of my face on the camera here. I just want to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. Oops. So I just wanted to get back on here, and I'm doing a little test with some more gear. If you guys were here last week, you saw that I was testing out some equipment, trying to up my game on my live stream. We talked for about an hour. You guys were asking questions, and at that time I was still waiting for some new equipment to come in. Some of that equipment has come in. I've set it up, and now I'm doing another test. So right now there's nobody here. I just sent out an email to everyone. Maybe you guys will find me, maybe you won't, but at least I can watch this back on YouTube later and see what the dealio is. So we have one person here. Hopefully you guys can use the chat. You can check out the chat, make sure that you can see me and hear me okay. Please let me know. That would be really, really cool. If you guys can do that. Hopefully we won't have any buffering issues or anything like that like we had the last time, but you just never know. With live streaming. Hey, Ricky, what's going on, brother? How are you, my friend? Hey, thanks for joining. I know this is a last minute thing. I don't know if you got the notification from YouTube or if you just got the email that I sent out, because I'm sure you're on my email list. Right, Ricky? You must be. But thanks for joining. Hey, how's it going? RET Child Crew. Hello, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. We'll wait for a few minutes for people to show up. Again, I'm just doing a live stream test. You guys can ask me questions about all kinds of stuff. Hey, Randall, what's happening, brother? You know, you can ask me anything, even though we're talking about live streaming, camera gear, and all that stuff. If you want to ask about plugins or recording or mixing or blah, 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 you know, you guys can ask me anything. So again, we got 7 people here. I just sent out an email to our email list, which has, I don't know, 20,000 people on it by this point. So maybe some people will show up. I know it's last minute. If you're on the East Coast, it's probably your dinner time. It's about 5 minutes after 6 Eastern. Christopher, how's it going, brother? Ricardo, hey, what's up, brother? How are you, my friend? So first things first, especially for people that might have saw the last live stream I did where we were talking about, you know, gear and stuff, part 1. This is part 2. How are things looking video-wise? How are things sounding? Is it, you know, is it better than what you've seen me do with live streams in the past, especially the picture quality? Now, hey, David, what's up, bro? Hey, Jackie, how you doing? And then we can walk through. I want to just tell you guys what I've done. I've actually took some pictures with my iPhone of my setup, which I'll share my screen with you in a few minutes, and you guys can see the setup for yourself of what I've kind of done and kind of walking through, you know, trying to just get better at this whole live stream thing for a couple of reasons. One, because I want it to look as good as I can possibly make it look and sound, right? For just trying to deliver the best quality content to you. And then also, I'm going to be starting to do a lot more live streaming where it's educational. It's not just getting on here and chatting and talking, although it will be partly chatting and talking because I always like talking with you guys and answering your questions, and we'll always continue to do that. But I've got a couple of weekly live streams in mind that we're going to do around mixing, around plugins and those kinds of things. And so in order for me to do a regular show, a regular weekly show, or bi-weekly, or however we set it up, I want to make sure that the thing is all dialed in, that it looks good, it sounds good, you guys have a good user experience on your end, and I know a lot of that is dependent on your internet connection as opposed to mine, but just to try to get so everyone can get everything, so when we're doing these kinds of training, you guys get the most out of them. So that's part of it. Let's see who's here. 11 people here already. Let's see. Ricky asks, hello, Mr. David. I just bought an Apollo. Oh, I got to increase my font here on my laptop because as you guys know, I'm getting old and I can't see the darn fonts anymore. So hold on, Ricky, I'll get to you. Let me just see if I can. Okay, here we go. You just bought an Apollo Twin MK2 solo interface. Very cool piece. I don't think the converters are all that great, so I'd like to get your take on purchasing an outboard A to D converter with the interface. Honestly, Ricky, the converters in the Apollo are pretty good, man. Why don't you feel that they're that great? What makes you say that? Because there is some, you know, there are people that will suggest that you could hear the difference between converters and different pieces of a gear. You know, you got to really have a really well-trained ear and or really have a totally high-end studio to maybe A/B them. I can tell you that the converters in the Apollo are really good. I have an Apollo and I use their converters and I think they're great, but I'd be interested to hear what you think and what you're experiencing and why you feel the way you do. Or did you just read about that and you're just hearing that in rumor and you just want to confirm or deny it? That's totally cool as well. Because I wouldn't suggest, I mean, I don't know your whole studio setup, but if you're going to put money into your studio, getting a better set of converters in the Apollo, you know, depending on what else you got going on, there might be better ways to invest your money. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that if you don't mind sharing. Let me know what you think. Christopher, looking great and sounding great for me. That's awesome, Christopher. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Randall says you are sharp and clear. Background is soft blurred. Yeah, it's supposed to be a soft blurred, so that's called a bokeh. I'm learning all these camera turns, my friend. Now, the last time that we were on here, we were using the same camera, which is a Sony a7 III, which is the new mirrorless camera that I'm using. And last live stream, I was using the kit lens that came with it, which was a 24mm to 70mm Sony lens, which in all honesty is probably a $200 lens. Not bad at all. But what I've learned in my video making process, especially when I was using my Canon cameras, as I was making all the new videos for homerecordingmadeeasy.com, all the ones that you guys see on there, the promo video, the big video on the homepage, is the lens, the lighting and the lens make all the difference in the world. So after the last week's live stream with the 24mm lens, I went out, 24mm wasn't wide enough. It was too close focally. So I went out and bought a Sigma 16mm lens, and I had some experience with Sigma lenses on my Canon, and I really love the way they look. They have the ability to get a really wide aperture, which allows, it works really good in low light. And so that might be why you see that it's nice and crisp, and also gives you that nice soft blurry background that kind of separates me from the background. So I'm still experimenting with a lens. I'm going to be trying another lens early next week to kind of dial in the last of the lenses. So that's what I'm doing there. And then I've also added some new lighting, which I'll show you guys a photo of. It's up here and up here. So there we go. So that's what we're doing. So that's what I've done thus far. RET Child, Ret Child, Crew, depth is a little shallow, cannot see the blue guitar much on the other videos is clear. Yep, that's exactly right. That's the effect of the lens to kind of separate me from the background. The background's going to be a little bit blurred. Now I can get rid of that background by turning up the f-stop. I think it's up. So right now it's running at a 1.4. Now when you run it at a 1.4 f-stop, what that means is that the aperture is very wide. The sensor is very open. It lets the most light in. So in a low light situation, everything's going to look nice and crisp. But at the same time, it also gives you a more shallow depth of field, which means the background behind me is going to be a little bit more blurry. If I turn that f-stop up from like a 1.4 to a F4 or an F5, the background will start to become a little bit more in focus, but then what's going to happen is everything's going to seem a little darker, which means you got to turn up your lights more. So I'm still playing with that relationship, but yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for the feedback. Jackie says, yes, coming across really smooth, great sounding here too. Awesome. PBZ Production. Hey, what's up, brother? Sounds good. Awesome. Hey, Lewis, how are you, my friend? Do you ever get computer spikes with any of your plugins? I'm using a little plate from Sound Toys with Studio One 4, and that plugin is spiking my CPU. Thanks, David, for advance. Yes, I have seen that. Who's calling me? I'm going to put that to voicemail. You guys are more important than that. Okay. Yes. Every once in a while, you see those little funny CPU spikes, and typically that would happen, Lewis, when you're using a lot of these kind of free plugins, these kind of cheaper offshoot brands. They'll have funky things with Studio One. Not so much Sound Toys. What I would recommend you do is, if you haven't done it, is completely delete that plugin off your system, meaning go into your plugins folder and throw it in the trash and delete it and then reinstall it and try it again and see if you can isolate it to that one plugin. I have seen that happen, and it's typically a plugin Studio One relationship. It only happens every once in a while, but that does happen. Try to uninstall it and reinstall it and see if that helps. Let's see. Christopher says, I'm having the same issue with Studio One 4. I think it might be I think maybe it's the upgrade, because after I upgrade, I start having that issue. Okay, so you didn't have that issue, Chris, with version 3, it sounds like. I did not see any issues like that between version 3 and version 4. I don't know if you're running a PC or a Mac. Everybody's computer's different. Everyone's setup's a little different. It could be the upgrade, but I doubt it. It's typically a VST insert or a plugin that's causing that. So I wonder if you've put any new plugins on your system since you did that upgrade. Just a thought. Don't know. Peace Valley Audio. Hey, Mike, what's up, brother? Spending more money, I see. Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting towards the end, though, Mike. I'm getting towards the end. Peace Valley. Mike says, looks great, looks more natural. Okay, great. Well, see, Mike, money well spent, right, brother? So it's, again, all in the lens and the lighting. And in a few minutes, as we get more people here, I took some snapshots with my iPhone, some pictures I can show you of my total setup with all the new gear, and I could walk you guys through it if you're interested. And I know some of you are interested, because since my last live stream, I must have got 50 questions about camera gear, lighting. I want to do that. How do I do? Which is really cool. Again, I don't mind sharing the knowledge. I'm not as good of a videographer as I am at audio, but I'm learning, and I don't mind passing it along. Even if you don't want to try to get a setup like mine, even if you just want to start small and you're not sure where to start, I would be glad to help. I mean, that's what I'm here for. Not that we're going to turn into a video channel. We're not, but I'm just trying to, share what I know. Let's see. Jackie says, I like shallow depth of field. F1.2 would be even better. Yes, but this lens is the lowest this particular lens can go is F1.4, which is still pretty low. I have another Sigma lens that was for my Canon. I think that's a 1.8 though. It's a 16 millimeter to 35 millimeter, and you can get an adapter for the Sony camera to put Canon lenses on there, which I have coming. The adapter's coming tomorrow. I'm going to try it. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. I want to try that Sigma lens versus the one we're looking at now. The lens that we're using now, even though it's a Sigma lens, which I really like, it's not their high-end lenses like the one I had for my camera. It's like a $400 lens, which is more of their, I wouldn't say entry level, but maybe a step up. The lenses that I use for the Canon, the ones that you see all the promo videos on Home Recording Made Easy, that's shot with a Sigma Art Series lens, which is about a $1,200 lens. I just want to see what the difference between what you're looking at and my Canon Art Series. Is there a difference in clarity and sharpness and blurriness? Not really sure. And so I had to get an adapter for my Sony camera in order to accept that lens, and that will be here tomorrow. The lens is a little pricey. It's a couple of $100. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to send it back to Amazon, and then I'm going to, settle on this lens, but I'm trying to do some experimenting. Okay. Randall says, if others agree, the volume could be 1 to 2 dB louder, or you could just turn up your speakers, Randall. I could turn up my end a little bit. I mean, I could do that. 1 to 2 dB is not going to blow anybody out of the water. Let me try that. Let me do that. Let me open up my little thingy here, and let me just give you a dB or 2. There we go. So that might be a little bit louder. Let me know if that's any better at all. Cool. Let's see. BTN Studios. Bill the Noob is here. Long time no see. Hey, BTN, Bill. What's up, buddy? How are you? Good. I'm glad you joined. Did you get the email, or did you just get the notification from YouTube? I sent an email to our entire list, so we'll have to see. Lewis says, David, my Studio One 4 startup screen doesn't complete startup and freezes once in a while. Does yours freeze up on startup? I might email PreSonus, thanks in advance. Mine doesn't, Lewis, but what that is when it starts up, it's scanning all your plugins. And as I think I was saying a few minutes ago, you have a plugin there that's maybe being a little corrupt. That's probably your problem. So if it's that SoundToys plugin, ditch that plugin and try something else, or try to reinstall it. That can happen. What it does is it's not only scanning the plugins, but it's scanning the whole startup sequence. Typically a new plugin sometimes will cause that to happen. Jackie says, Sigma lenses are very, very nice, but expensive. Not as expensive as the Sony lenses for this new camera. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, the Sony lenses, wow-wee, man. They're 2.5, 3 times the cost of the Canon lenses I was using, and double the cost of the Sigma lenses. And I just can't, I can't justify some of those Sony lenses. They're just way expensive. Maybe one day as my business grows, maybe I'll make an investment, but right now they're way too much. Jackie says, yes, the Art Series, not sure if the everyday viewer would see that, David. Probably not. Maybe lower grade art would be okay for video. Yeah, I'm just going to try it because I already own it. You know, I already own it. So I just want to do an A/B comparison. You're right. It may be so subtle that the average person wouldn't notice it. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to keep the one that I have on the camera now, which is a 16 millimeter Sigma contemporary lens. The only difference is my Canon is a focus lens. It's a 18 to 35 millimeters. So you have a little bit more, you know, more focal length you can use. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, we'll see. As long as the video is looking really good to you guys now. I mean, I'm looking at it up on the screen. It looks pretty good. So, you know, I don't know how it comes across always on YouTube. The other thing is I'm still playing around with the, not just the lens, but I played a lot with the picture profile inside of the camera, the settings with the Sony camera. I'm still trying to dial those in to try to get the right combination with the right lighting. And then once I have it set, I kind of just set it as a preset. So every time I live stream and put my camera on the rig, I go right to that preset and everything should be the same. I'm working on it. Let's see. Mike over at Peace Valley Audio says, oh, he's talking to Lewis. Have you ever tried optimizing your computer for audio? Google that. It fixed some of the issues I was having with third-party plugins. Great tip, Mike. You know, that's very good. I know that, and it didn't come to my head when he was asking the question. Very good tip. Yes, Lewis, try optimizing your computer for audio. Whether you're on a Mac or PC doesn't matter. You can Google it. There are YouTube videos on it. Go through those steps. That might clear up a couple of the buggy things. Hopefully. Thanks for that tip, Mike. Let's see. BTN Studio says you heard from email. YouTube didn't tell you anything. Even had to use the email link to find you. Oh, good. Good. Well, the email link worked. That's great. On my YouTube channel, Bill, do you have, when you subscribed, you click the little notification bell? Because if you click the little notification bell, when I go live, you'll get a message. So you may want to check that out. Hey, Larry, what's going on, brother? Hi, David. Have you ever tried the Rob Papin reverb? Nope, never tried it. I don't know anything about it. Is it good? I just did a plug-in video for, if you guys haven't seen it yet, for another one of the Audified bass plugins, the all-in-one. This one's called the Tone Spot Express. It's the baby brother of the big one that I did a few weeks ago. Really nice plugin, and I think it's on sale this week for $19. Worth $19 all day. To get really great, just throw it on your bass track, you know, pick a preset, and it just sounds great, and all the presets are really usable. Go check out that video. And I have another video being used. Another video coming on Monday, which is the kick drum video. I sent out a poll to all of our email lists and several hundreds of you responded. This week's video coming up on Monday will be 3 techniques of getting a great kick drum sound in the mix. And so that's a cool video you're going to want to check out. Lewis asks, David, what limiter do you use? Typically, I use the Slate Digital FG... I forget the name of it, FG something, but it's the Slate Digital one. That's the one I typically use. I have a few others, but that one I don't know. I just like it. It sounds really good. So that's what I use. Ricky asks, Mr. David, I'm mastering in the box now. That's basically what I'm using the Apollo Solo interface for. And I guess I am not hearing it all that great because I'm using AKG 702 headphones. Yeah, I don't know those headphones. They may be fine headphones. Yeah, I don't think your converters are the issue. I mean, no, they're not. I mean, I would be willing to say they're not the issue. Your converters in that Apollo were just fine. If you're not hearing something or you feel like you're missing something, it could be your headphones. I don't know if you also use studio monitors or if you can get your hands on a different set or a better set of headphones just to do kind of cross-reference to check and test. That's where I would start. And if you still feel like you're missing something, what exactly are you missing? You sure it's not a mixing issue? I mean, again, without hearing it, I don't really know. But I wouldn't think it's your equipment. I'd be willing to bet it's not. Unless you got a defective unit of some kind, it's probably not your converters. Hey, Bob Booth, mixing and mastering service. Hello, hello. Larry says, I think it's excellent, $60. Oh, that reverb. Oh, cool. Yeah, I have so many reverbs, you know. Someone asked me the other day if I would do a video on Slate, the the SSD5, the new plugin, and I don't own it. I don't plan to buy it, and Slate doesn't give me demo plugins, so I'm not going to buy plugins to do videos unless I already own them. But I mean, I have lots of plugins and lots of demos that I could do. I still haven't done a real full review on the Plugin Alliance SSL channel strips in and of themselves. I've compared them to others, but they gave me those 2 channel strips, so I might do a full video on them and get to know them a little bit more. I might do something like that. Let's see. BTN Studios. David, is there any advantage to using the Fat Channel plugin versus just sorting effects chains? Well, the Fat Channel just makes it a little easier. It's all in one plugin window, right? Is there any advantage? That would be the advantage. And the Fat Channel's got some good plugins in it. I've done several videos on the PreSonus Fat Channel plugins. I've done reviews for almost all of them. You can go check it out in the plugin, what is it called? Plugin Reviews playlist on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I think it's an advantage because everything's in one window. Everything's really easy. You can A/B things very quickly. That's really the only advantage as opposed to putting separate plugins. It's just a workflow thing. Let's see. Jackie asks, with SoftTube Console 1, yes, I have used it before, Jackie. But when I put it on every track in Studio One 4, everything seems to shutter really bad. How can I fix this in Studio One? Your guess is as good as mine. No idea. I used SoftTube's Console 1 for a week and sent it back. I didn't like it. It just wasn't my thing. I'm sure it's a great product. I know they've had the MK2 out, or they've had a new version of it come out recently, and that might be fantastic. But the one that I used, I didn't like the knobs, the layout. It wasn't for me. So I don't know much about it, to be honest. I wish I could help you. Let's see. Hi, David. Do you know anything about Studio One 4 effects send update? I can't seem to find the send on the effects channel. There's supposed to be effects. Is there supposed to be an effects send on the channel? Unless there's something new that I don't know, the one thing of the effects channel in Studio One, unless they just put out a new fix to fix it, doesn't have a send. That's one of the reasons why I don't use it. Now, they might have fixed that, but then the bus channel and the effects channel really are the same thing. There's no difference between those. The way they function, the only difference that I'm aware of, the difference between a bus channel and an effects channel, is a bus channel has a send, the ability to send it to another place, right? The effects channel does not. Now, by reading your little note here, it sounds like that's supposed to be changed, or maybe you think it's supposed to be changed because you don't see it there. I'm not aware of that, a send being added to that, because then there's no difference between that and a bus channel. I don't use the effects channels. I use the bus channels. Always, always. You don't have to, but I just do because I like the option of having a send. People emailing me left and right here. Okay. Mike says, do you still have all the Fat Channel modules even though you don't have a Series V mixer? Yes. I have all the plugins because you can use all those plugins in Studio One without the Series 3 mixer. So yes, I have them. Do I use them all the time? No. Not because I don't think some of them are really, really great. I mean, some of their plugins inside of that Fat Channel are awesome. But I mean, I have so many other plugins that they're not my #1 go-to unless I'm teaching a specific course or we're doing a specific. There is at least 2 of mixingmadeeasy.net in 2019 where I use only the Fat Channel plugins in Studio One, and I use a variety of them. So unless I'm doing it for a specific purpose, I don't typically reach for those plugins personally, but they are good plugins. So we got 19 people here watching, which is really cool, considering that nobody knew I was coming. So again, how does the video look? You say it looks good. Does it look like my face is like overly exposed? Does it look natural? It's so hard. I'm going to show you some pictures if you guys want to see them. Let me share my screen. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of what I got kind of going on here so you can just see the overall. Let me see. Okay, so here's my desktop now. Excuse the mess of all the icons. So if you were to stand back and look at from behind me, what you would see is this. Let me just open this, and so this is from right before I went live here. This is the setup. So this is what you don't see. So what's new to this is Up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see there are two big now lights that are attached to the wall on the left and the right that are kind of coming down this way. Those are new. Those weren't here as of the last live stream. All these other lights that you see, the column lights that are on the floor and these little desktop ones next to my monitors, those were always here. Those can change, and they're on white light now for the purpose of this video, but they can change colors and they can go any, you know, I got the, I use the, this, I'll put up here, hopefully it'll focus here. This, what's called iDual, which is like a, it's LED lighting that with a remote that everything can be changed to a bunch of different colors. So you can make them whatever different colors you want, but then it affects the video quality. So that's kind of what you see here. And so the next picture, got another one here from a side view here. So this is from the side of it. So again, I got these new LED lights with these soft boxes. So the LED lights that I'm using are called aperture lights. I think I talked about that last time. These are just the LED panels, the cool white panels. And what I like about them is they're all remote controlled. Oh, it's going to focus on my face. So with this one control, I can turn off, as you'll see it start to get darker now. I could turn on and turn off these lights at the click of the button, so I never have to get up and go touch the things on the wall. And they have these soft boxes on them to kind of diffuse the lights, and everything is mounted to the wall using Triad Orbit, which is their a module, or they make all kinds of stuff for mic stands and lights and video stuff and audio stuff. Really great products, Triad Orbit. I've done a video a few years back on the YouTube channel. If you're looking for stuff to hang cameras and lights and mic stands and stuff around your studios, Triad Orbit's the best stuff on the planet. And then my camera is here. So this is the Sony A7 III, the new camera. And then up here is a little monitor. I talked about this last time. This is a monitor recorder, so I can see what the camera sees. And the one thing, I love this little monitor because when you're looking at it, it looks pristine. The screen is gorgeous. But when I look at myself on OBS on my monitor, on either my TV above me or this computer monitor, it looks a little dull because the screen doesn't have the same high resolution as this monitor does here. But this gives me the ability to not only see what the camera sees and make sure the lighting looks right, but it also has what you don't see on the back, has a 500 gigabyte SSD drive. So the reason for this recorder is the one limitations to using any kind of DSLR camera or the mirrorless cameras is when you record video, they only record 29 minutes at a time. And then you have to turn the camera on and off, which as where you use a recorder like this, you can record unlimited amount of time as long as there's enough space on the hard drive. Which I use when I film my band and rehearsals and things like that. I don't want to have to keep turning the camera on and off. I just want to set it, forget it, go rehearse, 2 hours later, come back and have the whole rehearsal on film, so to speak. So that's what that is. And so that's kind of my, kind of my new setup. Again, I'm still tweaking it. It's still not where, it's still not where I want it to be. I know I'm getting better at it. But I'm working on it. I'm working on the combination of lights, getting the lighting right, getting the lenses right, getting, everything, just trying to get it right, and then working with streaming everything in 4K. So everything is going up in 4K. So that is what's going on there. So hopefully maybe you found that interesting. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. Again, this whole thing is more of a test for me after this live stream to go watch back like I did last time, watch it on the replay and see how does it look? What are you guys seeing? Because again, one of the challenges that I have with video is when I put OBS up on the screen and look at myself before I go live to see how everything looks, it doesn't always look, depending on what screen I'm looking at it on will depend on the overall quality of the video. Does that make sense? And that's one of the reasons why I got the hard disk recorder, because the screen is beautiful, but on that screen, my face looks like it's got way too much light on it. And I think that's just because the screen is so bright and it has such a high resolution, but when I look at it on my computer monitor, it looks okay. So I'm still playing around with all that stuff. I'm working on it. Let's see. Well, hopefully you guys, let's see what you guys wrote here. I'll scroll back up. Okay. A. Davis says, yes, there was an update in version 4.1.3. Oh, are you talking about the effects channel send? I don't know anything about that. I don't even know that I might not even updated my Studio One yet, so I don't know anything about that. Lewis says, David, do you ever record with mic preamps or use them on drums? Say snare kick. I have on vocals, but wasn't sure if it's overkill. I'm thinking not. Thanks in advance. The only preamps that I use when I record in this studio are one of two. I have a Universal Audio Apollo, which has 4 mic pre's. Again, much like the Apollo Twin, they're great mic pre's. I use them all the time, and I can record through with the Universal Audio. You can record in the Unison technology, so I can record through an API, or I can record through a SSL, or I can record through an 1176. So I do it all in plugins. When I record my bands, the only other preamps that I use are my mixer that you guys saw in the last shot there. I have a PreSonus AR16 mixer for just band rehearsals. And those pre's are probably nowhere near as good as the ones on the Series 3 mixers. But I got to tell you, I've recorded plenty of rehearsals and listened back in my studio, did a quick mix, and it sounds great. So, I don't think, again, the only time I would advise you using a different type of a preamp is if you're looking for a specific tone. So for example, if you have just a run-of-the-mill interface like a PreSonus Studio 192 or something like that, where the preamps are really great, but they're just transparent, there's no color in them, and you may want, a Neve or an API or an SSL kind of a sound, which that preamp won't give you, you can buy some external preamps and it'll give you a little bit more tone on the way in. But again, we're talking about subtleties here. We're not talking about this huge night and day difference. It's subtle. So it doesn't make as big of a difference on a single track as you think. Now, if you were recording an entire drum kit, let's say you had 10 microphones on the drum kit and you had 10, hardware preamps, API or whoever, and then recorded that drum kit, and then took the same microphones and plugged them into your Studio Live Series 3 mixer or your Studio 192 and recorded it that way, and then listen back A and B, would you hear a difference? Yes, across 8 or 10 tracks, you would hear a difference. How much of a difference? Maybe a 10% difference. And I'm not saying that 10% is better, I'm just saying it's different. So a lot of times, people talk about hardware preamps, and again, the money is probably better spent on a better microphone than it is if you have a decent interface. And your PreSonus interfaces or the Apollo interfaces, those are superior. Those are fantastic preamps. The external preamp is really something that you don't need to have unless you get to that level where you just want. Like we talk about with plugins, think of it as a painter that just wants to have different shades of blue, and every one of those preamps is a different type of blue. Think of it that way. It doesn't make as much of a difference as most people think. And people go down that trap of buying all that gear, and their recordings really don't sound all that much better to them. And it's because it's not this wild night and day difference. It's not. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Jackie says, the blue screen you have could be making your skin tight. Yes, it could. Yeah, that's the other darn thing is I have a 32-inch 4K monitor sitting in front of me. That's here. And even though it's dimmed down pretty good, but I can't dim it too much. I got to be able to see. So I thought about just getting a different, desktop. I don't know, maybe more of a neutral color, or maybe blue's not the right color. Maybe I got to come up with a desktop when I live stream that has a solid color that's maybe more toned down. That's a great point, Jackie. Let's see. Mike says, I never heard about the earlier, about the PreSonus update. Like David said, it would be pointless since they already have the same thing on a bus channel. I don't use effects channels either. I use buses. Yeah, I don't. Unless there's another purpose for it, Mike, that we're just not aware of. I'm not that close to it to know, so I don't know. Let me see. Let's see. BTN Studios. When you look up, the reflection from your blue monitor puts a blue tint on your glasses. Perhaps a slight tilt of your monitor would correct that. Mm-hmm. So a slight tilt, huh? I don't even know. Can this tilt? If it can, I'll have to look into that. I don't know that it tilts up or down, this monitor. I'll have to look into that. Good point, though. Well, that's part of why I'm doing this kind of a test. I got to watch this back and see what the hell I see. You know what I mean? Let's see. Jackie says you can try a different temperature in your lighting for your skin tone. Well, you mean in my LED lighting? It's just the it doesn't have the bicolor. It's just the white light. I can change that in the picture profile in the camera. Like I said, I got to experiment with that. I'm still trying to dial in the different picture profiles that this Sony has. It's a lot more involved than what it was on my Canon camera, so I'm still a little confused. And I've been watching other YouTube video guys and been copying their settings and stuff, trying to get a little closer. So yeah, so I know we're not that far off to where we want to be. I just got to dial it in a little bit better. Let's see. Donnie says, Triad Orbit. You know you got me hooked. I love their stuff, man. I tell everybody, if you need microphone stands, any kind of utility kind of clamps to mount cameras or lights or microphones, or you can't beat Triad Orbit, man. There isn't another system on the planet that is like that. I couldn't work in my studio without Triad Orbit. And I did a video for them a couple of years ago. And they sent me a half a truckload of product. I mean, go watch that video. It's not one of my better videos because I was still getting used to recording videos. It was on a shitty camera and whatnot. But you'll get to see how the product is used. And they didn't give me, you know, those guys never gave me a single piece of that equipment for free. I bought all of this stuff myself. You thought after the video I did for them, they would have gave me at least something at cost. They didn't, which kind of, I got to be honest, kind of irritated me. I wouldn't work with them again for that reason, but I love their product. And I've spent a fortune, small fortune, here on Triad Orbit stuff, but it is so great. I have that stuff everywhere. It's so rugged and durable, and it lets you, you have a wall, like where my lights are mounted on the wall, as you guys see. You just pull it out. I want to put a microphone up there, click, it's in. It's so simple. It's such a great, anyone with a home studio that has multiple microphones, or if you're doing, live streams or cameras or all that stuff, Triad Orbit's the best stuff in the world. Awesome. It's a little pricey, but I'll tell you what, you'll never buy another mic stand again. You will never break. You could throw it out of a 30-story building. It won't break. The stuff it's amazing. So Triad Orbit, if you're looking for really solid stuff, buy it once, you'll never buy it again. As far as you won't have to. Donnie says, great video, looks really good. Okay, great. Thanks, man. Looks good. Jackie says you might also try putting the little lights on your desk behind, the little lights on your desktop behind you on the floor as a backlight. Yeah. I had those little lights on at one point. I used to use those before I got these, and too much wash. And when you dim those, one thing I learned about LEDs, I think I said in the last live stream, all of my lights, even my big soft dome, is all aperture. And when I bought that light originally, when I first started doing this, I was buying LED lights on Amazon, cheap ones, and they never looked right. And these aperture lights are what all the professionals use. And I was like, why are these things so expensive? And as soon as I bought the first one and shot my first video for my website, I saw right away, there's all kinds of, I think they call it a CRI rating. There's all, and then they also talk about with LEDs, when you dim them, if they're not good LEDs, they flicker, like these lights on the desktop that you're talking about. I don't notice it here in the room, but when I start to dim those lights that are not so bright on my face, in the video, I can see the flickering. So when you buy cheap LEDs, a lot of times the color isn't right, so the skin tones don't look correct, and if you dim them, they will flicker. So aperture lights are known for being very solid, very true color. They're anti-flicker. They work really well. So there is a lot of specs in LED lighting, which is what separates a $700 light. Not that these are $700. I think each one of these panels was like $200, but my big one is $700, as opposed to buying a cheap little Amazon light. Although lots of people use those lights and they get great results. I tried, I wasn't able to. But I'm not that good at this stuff, so I just went out and watched all the guys on YouTube that I admired and got really good video, and I saw what do they use, and I went out and bought what they used. And that's what I did. I probably spent more than I had to, but it got the job done, and so that's one way to approach it. But that's a good idea. Maybe I've had people tell me having a backlight to separate myself. I have lights in the back, but they're more yellow, and I turned them all off, but I might do something there as well. But see, I don't want to just put them on the floor. I want to have a permanent setup because of the way this room is used for multiple purposes. I need to be able to, like with tonight, if I know, okay, in 5 minutes, I'm going to go do a live stream. I want to come here, hit 3 buttons, turn everything on, sit and record. I don't want to have to start setting up light stands and moving things and unplugging things and moving things around the studio, because then I won't do the stuff because I don't have the time. So I'll have to come up with something if I'm going to use a backlight that's kind of like, you know, mounted somewhere that I can just turn it on and off and control it. But that's a good idea too. Let's see. Jim says, should I buy slate tape or FG Gray drum bus compressor? They're two different things, man. Thanks for stopping by the way, Jim. Slate tape and FG Gray, they're two different plugins. One's a compressor, one's a tape machine. Yes, they both compress to some degree. I use both. Use a tape machine and then followed up with the FG Gray. On drum bus, more times than not, I always use the FG Gray. I love the way that sounds on drums. Personally, it's personal. There's a lot of other great bus compressors, but I don't expect the tape machine to do to the drum sound what the FG Gray is going to do, or vice versa. So they're two different things. Yeah, Mike just says, buy both or get the everything bundle. Get the everything bundle for $14 a month. You'll have all their plugins, and then you can experiment. Josh. Hey, Josh, what's up, buddy? Hi, how are you? So I don't know if you guys have any questions, any more questions. It's about 40 minutes. I don't want to stay on here too long. Again, just checking out. And the other thing about these lights is these lights are on its dimmest setting, and they're pretty far. I got to say, they're probably 12, maybe 12 feet away from me, and they're pretty, this is on its dimmest setting. If I turn these up even 50%, I could show you how bright these can get. These get insanely bright. And then everything's going to look very washed out, but that's only at 50%. And now on the screen, it just looks like I'm completely washed out, which is what you guys are probably going to tell me, right? Looks way too much light. But if you turn these things up 100%, you couldn't sit in front of them. I may also, those soft boxes are a little small. I may also put some more diffusion inside of that soft box to get the light to wash a little bit better. So if I turn these down all the way down to its dimmest, and that's at 10%, which is the lowest it can go. Let's see. Hey, Josh. Hi, Dave. What could be some of the reasons why my peak levels on my mix are high, but my RMS levels are really low? I'm having trouble with my RMS levels too low. Okay, how low is too low and how high is too high? And what that probably means, if you're talking about, I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about on your master bus, your RMS levels are low and then you're getting some spikes that are peaking. That means you have an instrument or a group of instruments that, from a compression point of view, shouldn't say that again, you either have instruments or groups of instruments from a dynamic range point of view are all over the place, and it's causing those spikes. A lot of times that'll be caused by a snare drum. If a snare is hit extra hard, if the drummer's playing in the pocket, then he gets a little too aggressive and gives you an extra 50% more strength on the snare. If it's not compressed in the right way, that can poke through and that can poke up, make something spike. So does that make sense? He says -16 to -20, and yes, the master bus. Okay, -16 to -20. When you're finishing up a mix is low. What is the peak going to? I can't imagine it's going 10 dB higher, is it? Or is it? Because you have something obviously on a track or tracks that's causing that spike. And if you want to lower the, if you want to raise the RMS level, once you get the balance right between all your tracks, just highlight all your tracks, group them all together, and just bring the whole mix up 4 or 5 dB, and that should fix your problem. Better be too low and be able to raise it up than have it too high and having to try to stamp it down. Does that help, Josh? I don't know if that explanation kind of helps you a little bit. Let me know. Let me see what I look like on the stream here. So I'm looking at this across YouTube. Yeah, it looks okay. Again, I don't know. This is probably going across. And the other thing I don't know about YouTube and streaming, I got to do some more research, is, I'm recording this in 4K, but I don't know that it's being uploaded in 4K through OBS. Still working out some of that. Some of this problem, or some of my limitation here, could be the way I have OBS set up. I'm still working through that. Okay, Josh, that helped. Great. Try some of those things, buddy, and let me know if any of those things help or don't help. You can always send me an email. Jackie, do I need better speakers to get more detail? Currently, I'm using the Yamaha MSP7s, but I miss things on them. Or do I just need to train my ears better? Are those good monitors? I don't know those particular monitors. Usually you can tell the quality of monitors in a lot of ways. Again, I'm making a general statement, so don't take me too literally. But monitors are fall into the kind of get what you pay for camp, in my mind. Now, having said that for a second, put that aside. A lot of what you hear, don't hear, accurately or not, has to do more with the room, the treatment of the room or lack thereof, than it is the monitor. So what I mean by that, Jackie, is you could put a $5,000 pair of monitors in your studio, and if the room is not set up right, if the speakers aren't placed in the right way, and if the treatment isn't done in the right way, then those $5,000 monitors, you won't hear, or you will miss some of the detail in what you think you should be hearing, okay? Excuse me. Conversely, if you have a well-treated room, speaker placement's right on the money, and you have a $500 or $1,000 pair of monitors, $500 a piece, you will get much more detail, much more accurate mixes, and a much better listening experience than if you have the expensive monitors and the room is all wrong. Make sense? So I don't know those specific monitors, but whenever someone asks me about speakers and monitors, the very first thing I ask is the room. Is the room set up correctly? Do you have the right acoustic treatment in there? Do you have the speakers placed in your desk placed, or your mixing station placed in a way that's not in a corner? How is your room set up? Once you got that licked, then you can talk about monitors. And then once we get the room and the environment set up proper, then monitors, yes, if you have a real inexpensive pair of monitors, they are not going to sound as good as you have a more expensive pair of monitors, generally. Now, there's some monitor brands out there that make very mid-price monitors that sound they sound like they cost twice as much, but those are outliers. In general terms, the cheaper the monitor, the more difficult it is to mix on them, the more detail loss you may have. The more expensive monitors you have, the more detail you're going to hear, the more low end it's going to be able to handle typically, and you're going to have better mixing decisions made, as long as the room and the environment is treated right. Hope that makes sense. Let's see. Josh says, okay, sounds good. Cool. Okay, Jackie, as I was rambling on, says, yes, the room is treated with Prime Acoustic panels. Okay, fantastic. Prime Acoustic's great stuff. And yes, the monitors are set up in the triangular, meaning you're sitting in the sweet spot of the triangle, and SonarWorks is running also. Okay, then if you have the SonarWorks plugin, you got the acoustic panels got the bass trapping right? I would assume you have more than just acoustic panels. You have some good bass trapping, and you got things set up and you're sitting in the sweet spot, then yes. Don't know much about the Yamahas. I don't know if they're an inexpensive, mid-priced, or they're not one of the more, that model doesn't ring a bell with me, meaning that, when you talk to a lot of engineers that mix on monitors, there's a few names that always pop up, right? Focal is a name that pops up a lot. What's the other one? Now the name escapes me. Genelec is the other one. Adams is another one. A lot of people in the home studio environment use KRKs. They have some good stuff. Even PreSonus makes a couple of decent monitors, but those are a little bit more on the lower price range. Not that they're not great, but those might be the same as your Yamahas. You know, when you want to start getting to that next level of speaker, you're looking at Adams, Focal, and those kinds of name brands. Hope that makes sense. Mike says he just did a little, oh good, he was doing some investigative work. The MSP7s for Yamaha are the predecessors to the H7 series they currently sell. Again, I don't know much about Yamaha monitors. And he says they were designed with the team that developed the NS10s. They don't make them anymore. I don't know much about them. Like I said, I don't know much about those particular monitors. The best thing for monitors that you can do if you want to try out monitors with no risk is buy them from a company like Sweetwater. Don't go listen to them in your local Guitar Center or your local store because they won't sound the same in that environment that they will in your studio. Buy them from a place like Musician's Friends or Sweetwater or any one of those online, your favorite online retailer. That gives you a money back exchange, you know, so 30 days, 45 days, no questions asked. You put them back in the box, you send them back, right? So you can work with them for 2 or 3 weeks, let them break in a little bit, and you'll know right away in your environment what speakers sound better to you. That's how I would audition speakers. A lot of people make the mistake. They run down to the local Guitar Center. They hear them in a room. They think they sound one way. They bring them home, stick them in their environment, and they sound completely different than what they heard in the store. And that has everything to do with the room. So that's the way I would do it. So hope that helps. Again, I don't know much about Yamaha stuff. But if you feel like you're missing, if I scroll up, you said you feel like you're missing the detail and your room is set up, sounds to be set up right, you've taken the care to do that, then I would say that maybe you're in the market for a new set of monitors. You may just not be hearing what you think you should be hearing, or you're not happy with the way they sound. Monitors are a very personal thing, you know, very personal preference thing. There is no, you know, this is the best. It's all personal preference. But, you know, a decent set of monitors, you know, something decent. Again, in my mind, anything less than $500 a speaker or $1,000 a pair, you know, I would start. That would be my bottom. If I was looking to make an investment, again, if you have, I'm assuming you have the budget. If you have the budget and you want to step up your speaker experience, start around that $500 each, $1,000 a pair. Double that, anywhere in that range, you're going to get something that sounds fantastic, and it's just personal preference to what you like. I use Focal Solo B6s. These sell for about $1,200 or $1,300 a piece. A little on the pricey side. I've had them for a lot of years. I love the way they sound, and I know what they sound like. I know I've tuned my ear to the monitor, so I know how they're supposed to sound, and I love them. I've had them forever. So it was a good investment for me, but it's a real personal thing. You're going to have to trust your ears and your wallet. You know, what can you afford to spend? But again, if that's too much, then you can always go down and look at the KRKs, the PreSonus stuff. They make really good stuff too, you know? Okay. What else? We've been on here just about an hour. You got about 15, 16 people here. Anyone else have any questions? Again, I appreciate you, you know, indulging me while we talk about camera gear and helping me with my live stream stuff. But it's going to be really cool, man. Once I get this whole thing dialed in, we're going to be doing, like I said, a weekly show for sure. Mixing, plugins, those kinds of things, where every week we're going to do something. Mike says the MSP7s were $700 brand new. Is that for a pair, Mike? Josh says, Dave, can I possibly send you a picture of my mixing environment? Maybe you can give me some advice. Yeah, sure. Send it to me. Yeah, if you send it to me in an email, give me a couple of days. I can look at it quickly and give you some pointers, if you will, to make sure that you're set up correctly for your environment. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, you can do a lot of this stuff on the cheap. If you're handy and you can make your own acoustic treatment, if you don't have the budget to buy this stuff, you can make this stuff for pennies on the dollar if you're crafty enough and you have that skill set. Or if you're like me and you don't, you just go out and you bite the bullet and you spend the money once. And again, you buy the stuff once, you never have to buy it again, you know? Let's see. Josh says it's the only place where I can mix at this time. I want to know if I'm SOL and should just stick to my headphones. Okay, well, yeah, and again, if the environment isn't optimum based on the limitations of, you know, what your living situation is, then headphones are a great way to go. I don't know if you saw it, Josh, but I just did a video on mixing with headphones, and you can get a fantastic set of headphones for between $500 and $700, which, you know, which would be, you know, great. I got my Sennheiser HD 700s. I think they were $600. I can mix on those things all day long. They're fantastic. You'll get a much better set of headphones for the money than you can studio monitors, for obvious reasons, right? Jackie says 1,400 AUD, maybe a little less, but for around that pair. Okay, $700 a piece. Okay, so, you know, that's not a real inexpensive monitor, Jackie. I mean, that's a pretty decent set of speakers. But again, you know, if you feel that you're not hearing the detail and you're not happy with the way they sound, again, if you can, I would try to buy a set of speakers from a place where you can return them and do an A/B comparison. You know, I don't know if you have the ability with your setup to plug in 2 sets of speakers and just hit a button, A/B them. Maybe you can. You know, and just try some stuff. You know, again, I would say if you were going to step it up from there, go check out a pair of Adams or a pair of Focals, or the other one. What's the other one? I always forget the name. It always escapes me. The other name, the other popular one that all the studios use, Genelec. You could check those out. That's it. And again, try that, you know, and see what the differences are. Without knowing that speaker, it's hard for me to, I can't sit here and tell you that's not a good speaker because I've never heard it. And you spent a couple of bucks on it. So it's not a bottom of the barrel entry level. It's not. But if you don't like the way it sounds, you may have to try something else. It might be that simple. Josh says, yes, I've seen it. Oh, you love the video. Okay, great. Yeah. Mixing on headphones, nothing to be ashamed of there. You can get great mixes on headphones if you get the right headphones. Mike. Oh, Mike's still looking up the Yamaha monitors. Yeah, I guess they don't make them anymore, Mike. Yep. It sounds like Jackie's saying, you know, about $1,400 or so, you know, for the, you know, the currency's different there, but you know, it's probably, you know, $700-800 a speaker. Again, not a bad speaker. I just don't know those speakers. What else? Any other questions? All my friends here, let me be glad to help. And then we'll wrap it up. And then, yeah, there's some new videos coming out next week on the YouTube channel. Make sure you stay tuned to that. What else is coming? Anything else I want to tell you about? No, nothing else. Nothing else. I'm just working on the live stream thing. And when the live stream thing starts happening officially, where there's some real education happening, unlike these kind of bull sessions, which these kind of, you know, sit around and shoot the shit sessions are always fun too. I'll let you guys know. And again, all that, it's all going to be free, at least for now. And we're going to do stuff. We're going to do a lot more live interaction stuff. And hopefully people will find it interesting and they'll show up and they'll be a part of it. So I'll let you guys know. And if, yeah, there's no other new products, nothing really coming up. Well, there's going to be another Mixing in Studio One Made Easy Volume 2 coming up, but I haven't started it yet. I was supposed to start it last week, but I had no time. I haven't had the time. People have asked me to do a studio tour video. I may do that at one point soon to show you, because again, this is a very multi-purpose room. People ask me all the time, what different things do you do in there? I have a really unique set of circles. I mean, this room is used for so much, and the way I have it set up is so I can do a whole bunch of different things, and some of you might find that interesting. So I might create a video for that at one point. And that's that. So, okay, man. Well, if there's no other questions, we've been here just about an hour. I'm going to take off. Again, thanks. I mean, we have some 15 people here, and you guys had no idea I was coming, so that's great. Again, thanks for all your support. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel. And again, make sure you hit that notification button. So when I come live like this, you'll know about it, and you may not be able to join me, but at least you'll know I'm here. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Okay. So thanks so much, and take care, everybody.